Well, good morning. I'm Norma, and today is May 21st. Like John and Elaine on Monday, I have chosen the Book of Wisdom for today's reading. Now, John pointed out that this book is part of the Apocrypha, but if you aren't sure what the Apocrypha is, it's an ancient collection of books that weren't accepted as an official part of the biblical canon, but were still thought to be useful for instruction, and so have been included in the Catholic and Orthodox as well as some Protestant scriptures. Now, Solomon is believed to have written 3 books in the wisdom literature: the Book of Proverbs, Wisdom of Solomon, the Book of Ecclesiastes, as well as being the author of the Song of Solomon. Please listen as I read from the Book of the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, verses 1 to 9. For all people who were ignorant of God were foolish by nature, and they were unable from the good things that are seen to know the one who exists. Nor did they recognize the artisan while paying heed to his works. But they supposed that either fire or wind or swift air, or the circle of stars or turbulent water, or the luminaries of heaven were the gods that rule the world. If through delight in the beauty of these things people assume them to be gods, let them know how much better than these is their Lord, for the author of beauty created them. And if people were amazed at their power in working, let them perceive from them how much more powerful is the one who formed them. For from the greatness and beauty of created things comes a corresponding perception of their Creator. Yet these people are little to be blamed, for perhaps they go astray while seeking God and desiring to find Him. For while they live among His works, they keep searching, and they trust in what they see, because the things that are seen are beautiful. Yet again, not even they are to be excused. For if they had the power to know so much that they could investigate the world, how did they fail to find sooner the Lord of these things? Well, in 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 1 to 15, we read the story of how Solomon, a young king, asked the Lord for discerning heart to govern his people. Now God is pleased with his request. He could have asked for wealth or status, but instead he asked for wisdom, and God gives him a wise and discerning heart. Wisdom moves us out of the realm of thought or feeling and into a deeper awareness of the sacred meaning of our lives. We can attain knowledge by reading or studying, but wisdom is a grace that God alone bestows as we open ourselves to divine mystery. Well, over Lent, I was drawn back to Elizabeth Slether's book, Broken Open. I had read it a couple times, but there's something in the phrase, broken open, that was speaking to me. She describes this as the mysterious place where pain and love intersect and break open the heart. I confess, it isn't always easy to let go of the familiarity of pain, especially when it's difficult to love. Like Solomon, we can ask for the grace of wisdom. But first we need to break down the walls that we have built around our hearts and minds that keep us from receiving this gift. The message of Easter is about a tomb broken open. You see, if the stone had never been rolled away, it would have remained a place of death and decay. Being broken open offers a new way of being. It gives us renewed hope. Jesus emerges from the tomb changed, not into someone different, but into his true nature. For that brief time as before he ascended back into heaven, he embodied all 3 persons of the Trinity. He was still a man marked with the scars in his hands and side, but he was also Spirit who could move through doors or vanish in an instant, and yet he was also the Father. When we allow God's wisdom to speak in and through us, we too are changed. We become more fully ourselves as God created us to be. We still carry the scars of past betrayals, loss, and suffering, until drop by drop, God's love and mercy softens the pain, and we are changed, not in spite of our wounds, but because of God working through them. We begin to see the world differently, with compassion rather than criticism. Rather than being divisive, we choose to be part of the healing. Well, one afternoon as I sat outside amidst the myriad shades of green and the soft pink hues of my magnolia tree, listening to the cheerful bird song, I read this quote in Lesser's book from an ancient Greek playwright, Aeschylus. "He who learns must suffer. In our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, until in our own despair against our will comes wisdom through the awful grace of God." Well, with a sense of deep peace and calm, I thought, the beauty of this spring moment must be a display of God's grace. Until a few days later, I was again sitting on my back deck, but now annoyed by black flies. The blossom has begun to turn brown and were falling to the ground. And I wondered, is this why he described God's grace as awful? Because it fades away? At the time, I couldn't come up with an answer that seemed to make sense. Well, as I read Solomon's words of wisdom, I realized that while I was admiring creation, I had failed to really see the Creator's hand. God's wisdom teaches us that everything has a season, that there is a beauty hidden both in the lush greening and in the storm clouds. God, the master artisan, paints an ever-changing palette of color that bursts in its season and then fades into the next. And with tender, loving care, she creates humanity in all its diversity. All of nature points us towards God, and in every person, the face of God can be seen. I think Aeschylus' phrase, awful grace of God, does not mean that it was something bad, but something we can't understand that leaves us in awe. This is the unfathomable mystery of the sacred. She has imprinted herself in all created things. Only when we are broken open can we perceive the hand of God at work. The grace of wisdom does not demand that we be perfect, but that we open our hearts and trust in God's perfection, confident that she always responds from a place of love. Please pray with me. Gracious Creator, Master Painter, break us open with your love, create in us hearts that are pure, renew our weary spirits. There is so much we can never understand. Help us to trust that there is promise even in the darkest days. Open us to wonder. Teach us to love you with our whole hearts and to love one another. And when our beauty begins to fade and we stumble and fall, may we see the awful grace of God is being manifested in us. Amen. Well, God bless you all, and I will see you next month. Take care till then. Bye-bye.